On Sunday, October 9th, 2022, we have a full moon in Aries. And in my opinion, the most vulnerable full moon of the year. Why? I'll let you know here in the rest of the video, along with some other key points and key transits connected to this full moon. If you like what you see, you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button. Hi, my name is Nicolas Polimenakos, aka Sparkles of Gold. Welcome to another video. If you're new to this channel, I just started out almost a year ago now, and I'm back on the train of doing this. And I have some things to say about this full moon that happens on Sunday. I do want to preface it with a couple transits and key points here that start off on Thursday, October 6th, and something that happens each day until the full moon that happens on Sunday. And I will also bring up a date in the past this year that's connected to this full moon in Aries. So let's get to it. Here, this chart actually that you're looking at right now is Thursday, October 6th, something at 10 o'clock something. I don't know. You can see right here. I'll show you. See, October 6th, 2022, Portland there, but I'll put it right back there. The reason why I'm showing you this is because on the way to the full moon that happens Sunday, we have an interesting setup happening. This has to do with Mercury right here. You can see this little guy in Virgo, and Pluto in Capricorn here. You can see Pluto is 26 degrees. Mercury's at 26. This red here in this astrological program means that it's retrograde. It's going backwards. And so Mercury and Pluto make a what they call a trine to each other. And there is truth on the table right now, and it's been building. It's actually been building for weeks, because when it comes to ideas, thoughts, and opinions and the processing of them, and that's what Mercury is. Mercury just came out of a retrograde, 3 weeks of retrograde last week, and it's starting to move forward and speed forward. So a lot of things that were complicated, or not, they were complicated and contemplated, were being reviewed and looked at that whole time during the retrograde. And now we're getting to the place where it's moving forward, and some of these things that were talked about are clear and to the point. And clear and to the point is Mercury and Virgo in general, but when it's with Pluto, it's to the depths, it's to the pinpointed, crystallized version of the truth or what needs to be said. And it's actually held in a really good container because they're harmoniously linked to each other, because they're both earth signs. So here we have practical matters at hand, practical conversation, but deep conversation and deep truth. And this is happening all week. Here's October 6th on the Thursday, right? So you have that as the backdrop going into this weekend and a full moon. Then, interestingly enough, the next day, just to show you this on the Friday, and I'll move this here. You can see Friday, October 7th, 2022. And I just want to point out that at this day, and this is happening along with this communication, is the sun in Libra is at 14 degrees, and there's Chiron in Aries at 14 degrees. So this is the setup for Sunday. It's been the setup all year, actually, when it comes to Aries things and Aries people and planets in Aries, about the vulnerability and the wounds that have been exposed and having to be dealt with for your Aries people or planets with Aries or your Aries rising. I've talked about this on my past videos. You've heard me talk about vulnerability and healing, and not seeing those wounds, but having those wounds reflected to you through other people, other situations. But I think at this point, the wounds are known and they're not hidden. And you have to be sensitive in these areas right now with subject matter like this. And I'll get to saying that why in a second. But Mercury's still in this talking deep place with Pluto, demanding deeper truth and to the core, that in the end brings a forward revolution in whatever area that it's in. And then at Friday into Saturday, you basically have the moon connecting with Neptune. So this is dream time. The moon is swimming around in its emotions with no boundaries with Neptune. It's very dream world, dream-like, and imaginative and creative. At the same time, can bring situations where one wants to disconnect from reality and swim out to wherever using some sort of vessel to get lost in. So you have to be careful with moments like this. I, in particular, am a big fan of Moon, Neptune, and Pisces conjunction. It's happened for years now. I have great insights during this period, these 2.5 days or whatever you want to call it. But that's the backdrop, okay? Now, this is October 7th on the Friday. If we go the next day, on the Saturday, we see the moon here is already in Aries now, going towards the Sunday full moon. It's with Jupiter. Mercury still making its relationship with Pluto, so there's a lot of talking still going on here, and in a sense negotiation and really precise vision is happening here. Now, on this day, you could see here, this isn't red anymore. And Pluto on October 8th on the Saturday stops going retrograde. And it's been retrograde since the end of April. So Pluto's about to make some big moves. If we have the 2 days before that I just explained, and now that it's retrograde, you can see the deeper shift happening here with this Pluto and Capricorn. And it's relating to the mind matters and communicating. And what's happening even within days, the type of shift that it's making. Sometimes you don't see this shift immediately, but Pluto's going to start moving forward very, very slowly, eventually going to next year when it's going to leave Capricorn and go into Aquarius for a little bit and then go back again. That's how it's happening. But I just want to point that out. Within 2 to 3 days, we have important things happening. Sun, Chiron opposition, Mercury, Pluto. Then Mercury, Pluto, when Pluto stops going backwards and starts to move forwards, right? So then we have the next day, which is, I will switch this up for you because I did it this way. You could see here, I have full moon, October 9th. It's close to 2 p.m. Pacific there. And there's the chart for the full moon. The one word that comes to mind when I look at this is vulnerability. And I actually do think it's the most vulnerable full moon of the year. You would think it would be in some water sign or something. But in this case, I don't believe it to be that. And I'll tell you why. There's several reasons here. First off is this. There's Chiron together with the moon in Aries. Now, everything is seen. Everything is open in the Aries part of your chart. Not only that, it's a full moon. So whatever the full moon's happening, full moon illuminates even the shadows and what's in the shadows. Let's keep it very, very simple, okay? So you have those couple things backing up this vulnerability and openness. Whether someone wants to be open in the Aries part of their chart or not, it's there. And what it's highlighted are things that do not function or haven't been functioning, and a source of, in a sense, wound and pride involved with that, and the healing of this. And I'm going to stick to a positive note with this because this could be, as some could say, filled with conflict. And I think that depending on the person involved, it can be, but if they don't know how to, or if they haven't figured out how to manage their wound or the Aries part of their chart. Now, but I think the potential here for healing is there. And the reason is because Venus and the Sun are together here too. And Venus and Libra, you can hear the teeter-tottering about the Libra story. They have the indecision that's not made and blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, that's fine. That happens sometimes. But I think in the end, there's the art of love and what that is. And Venus and Libra brings a gracefulness and a style to the way it wants to make things cohesive and harmonized. And it's setting this up for the wounded Aries moon and the Chiron. Now, they're 180 degrees from each other, and it normally could be in opposition, and it is mathematically. But I think Venus here and is trying to work its harmonious magic. It's graceful in what it does, and in the end seeks some sort of solidarity with all parties or with another individual or in the space. It wants to solidify it somehow and be harmonized. Will it be completely balanced? No, but the attempt is made, and the container is made for that. This Chiron and Moon in Aries is ruled by Mars in Gemini and actually has a certain type of flow, a good flow with Libra. So there's a lot of conversation here and a lot of putting things out on the table still. After weeks when Mercury was retrograde, we still have this going on. We have Mercury still in in Virgo, making that connection with Pluto at 26 degrees. You have so you have some support here, and a lot of it has to do with mental processing and communicating. So what I think is most important to remember here is this is a vulnerable moment where emotions will be expressed. The Aries moon will always, the way it will get its essential needs met, because that's what the moon function is on an emotional level, will self-assert itself, will want to show itself, put its will out into the world. Does it do it through battling and fighting and conflict? Sometimes it does. In this case, I think it's way too wounded to do it that way, and in actually seeking on a pure open level for healing in that solidarity I mentioned with Libra. I think the Aries part of your chart, and anybody who's in Aries or has Chiron in Aries, or let's say Mercury and Mars in Aries, you've been dealing with this all year with the challenges in that place in your chart. And I think at this point, we know that Aries likes a challenge and has the courage and will to go through challenges and is built for that because it's Mars ruled. But there's just certain points in time where you can't do that anymore. And part of the balancing of that warrior mentality is to be vulnerable and to be chill and to accept certain realities and accept help and accept healing. Whether you look at yourself and accept that, or there are others there to support you, it's there in this full moon. Now, I'm not saying it's happy-go-lucky for everybody. This could be very difficult for certain people if they don't have the tools and support. If you don't, they'll be exposed, and you'll know what tools and support that you'll need in something like this, And, I'm going to stop here for a second because I'm going to show you something. I want to go back, actually, and here is the new moon that happened March 31st, 2022. Why am I showing you this chart? I'm showing you this chart because 6 months ago, we had the new moon in Aries at 11 degrees. And Mercury was there, involved in this. But Chiron was there too, 6 months ago. There was themes, certain things going around that time 6 months ago. And now we're at the 6 month full moon part of this journey, and everything is open and exposed. That's why I'm taking an approach of looking for help and healing with this and using that intention, whether you're an Aries or a Libra or wherever that is in your chart, is to use the intention of healing and to bring in honest mirroring and realistic techniques to deal with what has been hard, painful, and troubling, and that there's a conduit and a place here for evolvement, spiritual evolvement, but just evolvement in general when it comes to the Aries part of your chart. I just look at this in March and I see the setup that's happened, and there's other things involved here with, I won't get into it, but I will say you see the nodes here at North Node in Taurus and South Node in Scorpio. We know within weeks there we had the eclipses that happened. They're both Mars and Venus are involved because they rule Scorpio and Taurus. And why am I saying that? Well, let's get back to this full moon and I'll show you why. Because Venus rules Libra, Mars rules Aries. And within a couple weeks from now, we are going to have those eclipses happen again 6 months later that are all part of this, that are all bringing up intense situations in the Taurus, Scorpio parts of your chart, and they are ruled by Venus in this full moon and ruled by this Aries full moon in Chiron. I meant Aries, or I meant Sun in Libra here with Venus. So I'm always bringing the connections. This is called dispositorship, by the way. Like you're looking to the ruler of whatever it is. So like I'm looking at the ruler of the moon in Aries, and the ruler is Mars. So I go to Mars in the chart right there. You see? That's dispositorship. And so that's how you connect things in astrology in a simple way. But these eclipses that we're going to have in a couple weeks on the 25th, and 2 weeks later, they're Mars and Venus, ruled. There's Scorpio new moon. We're going to have an eclipse And we're going to have a Taurus thing that happens at 14 degrees. It's no joke. And this is connected to all that. Set yourself up in a good way, man. Be kind to yourself in this Aries part of your chart. If you know people who have Aries placements in their chart, like reach out to them. Say, how are you? Can I help? How can I support you? You know, if they're willing to do that. And a lot of times, because Mercury's in a good place here with Pluto and this thing, it's sometimes you just need to listen and to hear and not bring judgment and not try to fix it for someone or solve their problems. You know, a lot of times it's just like people need to be seen and heard for what they are, wounds and all, you know, and it's that simple in my mind. I'm a big believer of that. I still will be. I wrote it in my last newsletter in April, which was 6 months ago, which means I need to write a newsletter for you all again to connect it to all this. But I'm really trying to stick to a measure of grace and dignity in all this. You are in a place of wounding in that part of your chart, or it's been exposed, or you've been dealing with certain types of relational issues with yourself or whatever it is on the outside of you. It's all about dignity and like knowing where you stand and knowing you are and being cool, no matter how tough it is, that you in a sense you're sticking up for yourself by showing yourself and showing what you want. There are needs and wants, and what I'm talking about here is want. You know, hey, this is what I want, you know, and then there's things that you need. There's the need, like things you need to survive, and those are two different things, but they're all exposed here. I know I'm going on and on about this, but I'm trying to come from a place of love and compassion and vulnerability and understanding. Can never have too much of that stuff, right? And if I think about 6 months ago with the eclipses and that lunation I told you with the new moon, we've all needed it in some form or fashion. I'm generalizing, saying, hey, you all, I don't know your whole story and stuff, but I know from my client's point of view and from my colleagues and the comments I get from you on Instagram or on YouTube, I see the stories that you're going through, and I know a lot of you that have Aries placements, and I see that. So I'm always going to stick to that love and compassion thing with a good, strong safety net and honesty. Honesty always for me is the winner with things. So that's the full moon on the 9th. I know there's more to this, but I do want to go to the next day. I'm going to give you a bonus here on the 10th, and I'm going to switch it up here because I know I might have missed some things, but here's the 10th. Here's the next day, actually. Something happens on this day, and I think it's a good chapter after the full moon, and the reason is I'm going to move the chart up to here. And this is like close to 6 o'clock on October 10th on the Monday in Pacific time, but here you see Mercury here now at 0 degrees. It finally left Virgo coming out of this retrograde, but 0 degrees Libra was the place several weeks ago where Mercury made its conjunction to the sun during the retrograde cycle. It does that every retrograde for 3 weeks in the midpoint of the retrograde cycle when it's going backwards. It makes a conjunction with the sun, and then it's at the heart of the sun. They call it the Kazemi process. And I might have did a video on it before or whatever, but I actually did make a video, not on it, but I did a video during the Kazemi moment. Now here we are 2 weeks later, the day after the full moon, and we're looking at this Mercury in Libra, and there's a shift now in the conversations, and now that style and grace and that elegance and the loving words, and sometimes the manipulation of Mercury and Libra is there, but there's still a negotiation happening now. But I think there's a lot more pleasantness involved. You just have to be careful of a little too much pleasantness. You still want honesty, and you don't want to beat around the bush. And sometimes Mercury and Libra can do that. And it's directly opposite Jupiter here. That happens for the next couple days after the Monday. Eventually, Mercury is going to do an opposition to Chiron, which keeps the story going that I'm talking about here with wounds in the Aries part of your chart. So I'm going to keep it there. I can keep going, but I do want to get to a place here at the end where you're always going to get the truth from me. It's been a year, and I on my personal level, you've known that I was out of commission for 2 months because of COVID and a couple other things I had to deal with. I'm going to tell you from my learned place, my intuitive place, and the years of experience that I have as a human, as an astrologer. There's so much in the outside world that always goes on with challenge and conflict. We come out of the womb and we're thrown into this chaotic world, having to survive. And depending on how we grew up or what we came through environmentally, we were supported or sort of supported or not. It's never perfect. And you learn and you survive and you develop habits and you just keep going. And no matter what tangents you've been on in your life, and if you're listening to this right now, you're still alive. So you've made it this far. For how many years? It doesn't matter how old you are. That's just what part of being on planet Earth is. But no matter what the challenges are, no matter what's happened to you this year, but the eclipses, the difficulty, all the transits that we've talked about, the eclipses that are about to happen, you do have the knowledge and the power and the choice to see what has happened to you, to look at it, to feel it, to sit with it, to let it marinate, and to come to a place of wisdom where now you can apply those things. And I think we're at that application place in this part of the year with these eclipses coming up, with this full moon that's happening, with Mars about to station in Gemini. You're not stupid. You've learned some things. So apply them. And remember, you, beautiful human, I see you. And I know that you see me. And for wherever you are, in whatever part of the world you're in, know that I got your back. At least when it comes to this video, at least in this moment while you're looking at me and hearing me, no matter what you're going on, what's going on with you and what you have to deal with, know that I'm right there, and I know you're right there for me. And I am a big believer in ritual and energy. And right now, at this point of time, and this month, with a lot more transits happening later this month, and that's for my next videos, but for everything that's happening in the next 4 to 5 weeks, you're not alone. And if you are, leave me a comment. Send me an email. If you need to say something, I'll try to listen to it, get to it. I can't do it all, but I'm giving you the outlet and the place. Now, saying that from my deepest place, courage comes from love, and being loving to yourself and loving something, the world, is courageous. So we have Venus and Mars here, and they can blend together, and you can balance the two. So remember that. You could do both. It doesn't have to be a fight. Sometimes you have to fight through something. But in the end, all you want to do is show yourself, be seen, acknowledged, and confirmed as a human being with love. I'll see you on the next video.